Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we are going to continue the conversation around podcasting, around content marketing, establishing a personal brand, and how to grow your sales. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, please be aware that this is more like a part 2 or part 3. I've lost count. So after you listen to this episode, just skip back, listen to the prior one, and then from there you will get a larger context and from there, I'll refer you to the earlier episodes. Now, the reason why this is what I'm looking at today is because I have been interacting with a podcast listener. Let's just call the guy Shinorambo. Now, I'm not calling the guy Shinorambo because he's an Ole. I'm just calling him Shinorambo because, to be honest, I cannot remember why I started calling him Shinorambo in the first place. Well, anyway, so Shinorambo is based in Lagos. Financial services sector, wealth advisory, and he and his partners have decided that they're going to come up with a podcast as a way of growing the business. So if you want more details, just listen to that episode and you get the whole context. But in the conversations that I've had with Shinorambo, there have been a couple of matters arising, some issues that are pertinent that I think the rest of you who are listening to the podcast, who are also trying to consider having a content marketing strategy or a podcasting strategy. There's just a bunch of stuff that I think you guys might find interesting. Now, for those of you who are listening for the first time, apologies because I'm making today's episode out and about. I'm on the road. I'm in a parking lot because I have some small paros like this and I actually have to chill for about 45 minutes. So I said, let me just record this podcast sharp. So if this is your first time listening to the podcast, I beg no vex. This is how I make my podcasts. If I'm in a quiet place, it's quiet. If I'm in a noisy place, it's noisy. But I always do my best to make sure that I deliver value to you guys. Now, if anybody would like to connect with me, you want to say what's up, or you have a couple of questions, you can call, send me a text message or a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. So if you want to be like Shinorambo, who reached out, then that's my phone number. If you want to be like Debo just sent me messages a couple of minutes ago. So we're going to schedule our first session tomorrow, Monday, 10 a.m., if I remember correctly. So if you want to be like any of these gentlemen or gentle ladies, because before them, I think the last podcast episode I did was from the lady I called Mary Kay. Yeah, the pig farmer, the potential pig farmer. So if you want to be like them, reach out 080-6466-2140. All right, now let's get started. Or rather, let's continue. So remember, this is a part 3. I'll be a part 4. Honestly, I've lost count. But it's about podcasting. It's about content marketing. It's about establishing a personal brand and doing all of this so that we can grow our sales. Because remember, for me anyway, when we get involved in all these sorts of things, money is key. Money is cocoa. That's the main reason why we're doing these things. If you deceive yourself and you say that money is not a significant factor for you, no problem. Continue. I'll give it a few months. You'll be one of those people who, hey, boy, what's up now? How far with the podcast? I say, I wasn't consistent. One thing. It's money that was the problem. All right. Now, so Shinorambo now. All I say. Okay, so for the last episode now, I think I mentioned that promotion is key. So if you're creating a podcast and you're publishing episodes, but you don't get any promotional strategy, you're just wasting your time. You are wasting your time. You're making a whole bunch of noise, but nobody's listening. Even if people are listening, it's not it's not the quantity or the quality of people that you want to listen that you will even have. So promotion. Make sure that you have a promotion strategy. I think that is what we spoke about in the last episode. So now continuing on this, that's the reason why I even broke it into two stuff. Because when it comes to promotion, I think in the last episode I looked at how you can use AI tools, artificial intelligence tools, to create the collateral that you can use to promote your podcast. Then so today what I want us to look at is let me see. The proper way to promote. How will I put it? Anyway, let me just continue. You will catch your drift. So whenever we say promote your podcast, a lot of people are going to assume that the best way to promote your podcast is on social media. Let me repeat. A lot of the ideas that we discussed in the last episode, and a lot of times that I said you need to promote your podcast and you have to come up with a promotion strategy, a lot of you heard that you're supposed to promote your podcast on social media. In fact, I won't lie, a lot of times when I was talking about it, I was hinting that you should promote on social media. But unfortunately, I have some bad news for all of you who want to start creating podcasts. I have some very, very bad news. Very bad news. But don't worry, every problem has a solution. Now, the problem is this. Podcasts, unfortunately, they don't grow through social media. Let me repeat that again, in case there are some of you who are wondering, did I hear this guy correctly? Yes, you heard me correctly, and you heard me loud and clear. Whether we like it or not, research is now coming out, of course, from the West, because in Nigeria, what do we measure? So in America and in Western Europe, research is coming out that shows quite conclusively that podcasts do not grow through social media. First of all, there's a mismatch because social media nowadays is mostly short form. All these quick video, 1 minute, stuff like that. People are scrolling. And so there's a mismatch because you have this podcast. Even if your podcast is short, your podcast will be 15 minutes. Now, compared to all those 1 minute reels that you guys are scrolling, it's a very long something. So when people are in TikTok mode or when people are in Instagram mode, you really think they will see something about your podcast and then they will now leave this short 1 minute and then go and consume your 15-minute thing? Or for those of us who now make podcast episodes that last 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, you think somebody will skip their 1 minute something and go and listen to your own 1 hour something? Now, it's not absolute. There will be a few people, who do that, but you can see that is not where you will get most of your growth. It won't be from people who are flipping through on social media and then they'll think, oh, you know what? Tavashima's podcast, that sounds really interesting. Let me give it a try. Don't be like that. That's not how podcasts really grow. Also, social media platforms are trying to discourage people from clicking off of their platforms. So if LinkedIn understands and if Facebook understand and all these other platforms know that you are trying to get people to leave Instagram, leave LinkedIn, leave TikTok and go over to your podcast, they will deprioritize your post. They will make sure that your post is not getting plenty of reach. And trust me, I know this from personal experience. That is precisely the reason why I share like a maniac on social media. Because I know that my reach is being curbed. That is the reason why I'm sharing sometimes 10 times a day. Now, the difference is clear. When I try to write posts without putting in a link, the reach is bigger, is broader. And some of you will say, okay, if that's the case, then why not just try and promote your podcast that way? How will I put it? Basically, when I'm sharing on social media, my goal is to try and get as many people as possible to go through to the podcast, no matter how few. I don't like writing all these long posts that get plenty of reach, but then at the end of the day, I don't like the fact that, they're consuming my content and then they're staying on platform. I'm trying to get some people to click off, no matter how small. So just know that podcasts don't grow through social media. And if you're one of those people who thinks you can grow your podcast through social media, be prepared. I've already told you guys before that you should be sharing like a maniac. Be prepared to share like an extremely crazy maniac. Like you have to be on another level because it's hard work to get people off of native platforms like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever, and get them to go to your podcast. It's very, very hard work. So that's just it. There's a mismatch in the content type. People are doing one minute. They're enjoying themselves, and then you're saying, "Hey, come and listen to my thing. It is 10 minutes." There's a mismatch. Not a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, you know what? Let me leave these 1 minute videos, all these quick skits. Let me just leave and go and listen to this thing." So there's a mismatch. And then Zuckerberg doesn't want you to leave Facebook, doesn't want you to leave Instagram. So when you put your links there, they are deprioritizing your posts, which is the reason why people start coming up with all kinds of tricks, to trick the algorithm by putting the link in the comment section and, all these sorts of stuff. Some people do link in bio, but I hear that link in bio is no longer effective. But then again, I'm not a social media pro, so don't take these things from me. So most of your podcast growth is not going to come from social media, but I must confess to you that because I am stubborn and I was willing to post like a maniac, and I've been posting like a maniac for the last what will I say now? For the last 2.5 years, yes, I have been able to grow my podcast using social media, or at least I think it's social media. Because as far as I can tell, there's not anything else that I've been doing. So I don't know how to attribute the growth except to say social media, but I've been doing that like a maniac. So this is from my own personal experience. You want to grow your podcast through social media, and you want to be posting like a maniac like me. On average, I do it maybe about 8-10 times a day. If I have a smooth day and I start loading up my links on time because I schedule my posts. So if I have a smooth day and I can schedule everything on time, I might schedule about 12. So so that was the bad news. The podcast is not going to grow through social media. At least that's what's happening in the West. Now you guys will be asking, why are you the bringer of bad news? What is the solution? What is the way forward? Now this is the way forward. Podcasts are not going to grow through social media. However, podcasts are going to grow through two main things, two main dynamics. One of them is organic recommendation. As in, Banker will listen to it and she likes it, and so she will tell Kemi. Or Abdul will listen to it and he likes it and he will tell Mahmoud. Or Chinasa will listen to it and she likes it, and so she will tell Chinyere. So, organic recommendations. That is why, that is why some podcasters, it's been a long day. So that's why some podcasters, try hard about this whole community building thing. Because if you're able to build vibrant communities, then yes, you can get that dynamic going. If you have a healthy community and people, they feel you, like they're in your community and they're getting value, that is the kind of thing that will cause an Abdurrahman to listen and say, Kai, this guy is the truth. Gaskia. And then he will now refer your podcast to Abdul Karim. Now look, listen to this thing. This guy is the truth. So, organic recommendations, community building, very, very important if you want to grow your podcast. So, start doing your research. Now, once we remove that one now, right? Organic recommendations. By the way, I don't do that. I don't have a community. And for those of you who didn't listen to, I think like 2 or 3 episodes ago, what we have here, those of you who are listening to me, you are not a community. You are an audience. An audience is people that you talk to. A community is people who talk to each other. So, if you have a podcast, even if you have 10,000 subscribers, do not deceive yourself that you have a community. A community is not by size. A community is about it's in the name itself, community, commune. When people don't they commune amongst themselves, then it is a community. So when you have an audience of 10,000, or like in my case, you have an audience of 4,002, you are still talking at people. It's not a community. If you're able to set up a Facebook group and you're able to ginger the dynamic so that people start talking to each other and people find themselves as a valuable resource, like my guys in what's this podcast again? Oh, it's a construction podcast in America, and so they have this community that they call the Shinfu, where they teach people in the trades how to sell, people in the construction trades. So you be carpenter, what else? Carpenter, roof repair, solar, all those people. They teach them how to sell. Now they have this community in the Shinfu where people go and then they do role playing and then stuff like that. Now the role playing usually is senior members of the community, who are grilling younger members of the community. And then people also, when they have sales issues, they come into the community and then they ask questions. And then there are older members of the community who answer, and then other people who try to be supportive to say, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Now, the guy who runs the podcast, the guy who is responsible for starting the community, he doesn't answer these questions. He rarely chooks mouth because he trusts the senior members of the communities. He trusts that the guy don't train them well. So moderation is taken care of. So he doesn't have to chook mouth because the community is talking by itself and everybody is helping each other solve problems. So that guy, the Shinfu community, they have this thing on lock, community on lock. That is a community. So don't say, oh, I have 10,000 subscribers. I have a community. You don't get community. What you have is an audience. So what I have is an audience. And I just confessed it that, for me, I'm not doing any community play because, I'm not a community marketing specialist or whatever these people call themselves. My own specialty is sales. So this community thing, it sounds like hard work, and I'm not ready for that yet. So, since I don't have the strength, I don't have the stomach for a community, there's another option that's available to me, and it's going to be available to you guys. So I think I'll start in the podcast, and that is called Podcast SEO. Now, SEO just means search engine optimization, and search engine optimization traditionally used to mean how do people find you online? The answer to that question used to be how do people find you on Google? Now, because podcasts have to be listened to through a, what are they called? A podcast playing app or some other podcast medium, like Apple iTunes, like Stitcher, like what else? Podcast Addict, like Amazon Music, like YouTube Music, YouTube, on and on. Because that is the case, podcast SEO now means how do people find you on those podcast playing platforms? So podcast SEO now means when somebody opens Apple iTunes, how will they find you? That's the question. Hope you guys are feeling me. The philosophy is still the same. It's just that we're no longer talking about Google. All right? Now, the Google thing is still important, sure, no problem. But research has shown that that is how podcasts are really growing nowadays. Somebody will open Apple iTunes. While the person is in Apple iTunes, they will see your podcast and say, this thing looks interesting. Then they will click on your podcast within the app. And then from there, they will subscribe and then begin to consume you. That is how podcasts are growing nowadays. Hope you guys understand what I'm saying. So, social media, podcasts are not really going through social media. Organic, yes, they're going through organic. So if you can hook up a community to help that dynamic, wonderful, very good. But for the rest of us, we don't get power for community. Podcast SEO, that's the remaining game. That's the remaining thing that we can play with. So, podcast SEO, like I said, sorry about the noise in the background. I told you I'm in the parking lot and I am in, I'm based in Abuja. For those of you who are just listening to the podcast, oh, by the way, my name is Tabashima Ayede. I'm a former lawyer turned business consultant. I'm Abuja based. I know in Abuja now, where boys get money, they'd like to flex anyhow. So, people soup up their cars and they soup up their bikes. So you just be minding your business. You just be hearing vroom, 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 all those vehicles. So all that noise you're hearing in the background, that's all those boys. All of them just they flex. So, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, what again? They'll just be souping up their cars and then with their motorbikes and everything. So that's the noise in the background. So no vex. In fact, I'm waiting. When I have money, I'll join them. I'll join them as well. I'll become a nuisance. But they make noise anyhow. Where was I? So podcast SEO. Now, when I said SEO used to mean how do people find you online? And particularly how do people find you on Google? I said that deliberately so that people will remember that all those tactics that people used to play with on Google, you're now going to use those same tactics, but inside the podcast player. So all those moves that people used to do on Google so that people will find you, those very same tactics, in principle, you could do them on the podcast playing platform. All right. So all those things we used to do on Google before, now that you're in Apple iTunes, be doing that same thing. All those things that people used to do on Google before, Now that you are in Podcast Addict, be doing that same thing. The thing you used to do on Google, now that your podcast is on Podbean, be doing the same thing. Before on Google, all those same tricks that you used to do. Now that you're on which one again? Stitcher. You be doing it. You be doing those same tricks. Podcast FM, be doing those same tricks. Amazon Music, be doing those same tricks. Which one again? Yahoo Music, be doing the same thing. I say Yahoo Music. What's it called? Not Yahoo. This thing now. YouTube Music, be doing the same tricks. YouTube again, be doing the same tricks. So all those tricks that you used to do before on Google, everything applies over here. All right? Now, the first trick, 101, that people used to do was key terms. So now that you have a podcast, I'm sorry. If you did not like doing key terms wahala on Google, I am sorry. But we are back to square one. We guys play that game now on Podcast SEO. And what key terms just means basically is all those words that you know that your potential customers, your potential listeners of your podcast, your potential audience, all the words that they will be looking for, all the words that they will be searching for, you guys put them in your podcast. You hear me? Put it in your podcast title. Put it in your podcast descriptions. Put it everywhere. So that whenever somebody is in a podcast player and then they search, your thing will come up. That is how they will find you. That is where the real growth will come from. That's the reason why 15,000 people on a daily are searching for my podcast. By the way, the number, don't be like, wow, 15,000. It's not that sweet. Because actually what happens is about 15,000 people are searching daily using the key terms. Of the people that find, only about 1,200 or so actually are interested. But then, sadly, for that 1,000, out of that 1,200, is now only about 800 and something that actually play to listen to a couple of episodes. And unfortunately, out of the 800, there's only a few that subscribe. I think I'm only getting maybe like, is it like 200 subscribers a week? Maybe a month? I can't remember. But you can see it's not fantastic. So, yes, when I say 15,000, some of you must have been like, oh my God, 15,000. No, it's not as if I'm getting 15,000 subscribers. It's just that 15,000 people are searching the key terms that I use. Okay. So, with that in mind, for those of you who are trying to name your podcasts, I'm begging all of you, can you please use common sense and put those key terms in your podcast title? Right now, nobody knows you. You're titling your podcast, Chilling with Kunle. Nobody knows Kunle. Kunle means nothing. If you're in the financial services sector and you're starting a podcast, why will you be calling your podcast Chilling with Kunle? When people are looking for financial advice in the podcast, are they going to be typing chilling? Or are they going to be typing Kunle? Don't you think they'll be typing finance or typing stocks or typing investing? Put those keywords in your title, my guys. That thing blows my mind. You do party, you launch the podcast, you tell your whole family this, that, and then, oh, what's your podcast name? Oh, Chilling with Kunle. How are people supposed to find you? Come on now. Do you know how many podcasts are on podcast playing platforms? How will somebody come and find you? What does chilling mean? What does Kunle mean? Come on. So, key terms, podcast episode, key terms in your title. Those of you who listen to my podcast, you think I'm stupid. You think I lack creativity. There's a reason why I have given my podcast the most boring name ever. It is called Sales for the Nigerian Business Person. For a reason. So that every single time anybody goes into a podcast and they type Nigeria, my podcast will show. If they type sales, my podcast will show. If they type marketing, my podcast will show. If they type business, my podcast will show. Do you feel me? You see the strategy now. That is how I've been growing organically. So I'm connected to nobody. I know nobody. I'm not doing any advertising, blah, 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 blah. So if you just wonder, like, this guy podcast, the guy they show consistent, like, how come? That is how I'm playing the game. Use terms, key terms that your people will find. So I didn't tell Shinorambo this, by the way, not his real name, the guy who runs the financial podcast. I didn't tell him that. When we talk, eventually I'll tell him. But The rest of you who are listening, please take dressing. Key terms. We're back to it again. Key terms. Key terms should be reflected in the title. Key terms should be reflected in your description, because people are not going to be searching for your name. They don't know you. People will be searching for certain key topics, certain key titles. You know what those things are. Let it reflect. That is what will make you show up. That is podcast SEO, search engine optimization. That is how people will find you. Take it from me. Almost everybody who reaches out to me, I ask the question, how did you find me? It's always a variation of something. I was looking for a Nigerian podcast, and so I can't remember what I typed in. I must have typed in Nigeria or sales or marketing or something, and then they find me. Now, because I talk about some other tangential issues like strategy, last month there were a couple of you who found me because you are typing in strategy. How did the search engine know to show them my podcast that I talk about strategy? Let me guess. Could it be because I put strategy in the topic title, or I put strategy in the podcast description? Do you think that's possible? Do you think that's the reason why people who are also looking for strategy advice are finding me? Can you see the connection? You should stop putting your names in the podcast. Your name means nothing. Yet, the time will come when your name will mean something. So like now, my name means nothing. But when I'm a certified big boy, I will put my name, my podcast title. When I'm a certified big boy, when I'm on the level of Cosmas, Maduka, or, that's Koschari's guy, or Dangote, or Obi Kubana, and all of them, all those big boys. When I'm at that level, I'll go to blast my name everywhere, Tabashima Yede, because then people will be searching for me. But until then, keywords, please. Keywords. If I see any of you, you're a listener of my podcast, and then your podcast is named Chilling with Kunle, I'll disown you. I'll say I do not know you. If I see you in public, I'll say I do not know that guy. Podcast SEO. This also goes for podcast art. Some of you start a podcast, no problem. You're coming up with podcast art. You now go and put your picture there. Why are you putting your face there now? Nobody knows you. Why are you doing this? Why? Except if you're very, very attractive, like supermodel kind of attractiveness, that somebody will be scrolling and then they'll say, see fine boy, or see fine girl. Why are you putting your face there? Nobody knows you. Podcast SEO, search engine optimization. There are some people who are already known quantities, and so they put their face there. Michelle Obama. There's a reason why her name is in her podcast title. Because she is Michelle Obama. If you scroll and see Michelle Obama, you say, Michelle Obama, she get podcast. You even see her face. You say, now how be this so? Let me try 1 or 2 episodes. Search engine optimization. What are the kind of things that people are looking for? The kind of things that will make somebody stop. Like, don't put your face there. Nobody knows you. Nobody. So Michelle Obama, her own podcast is, I think it's called In My Own Opinion. And then, the subtext or whatever is conversations with Michelle Obama and something. So, of course, once people hear the gist, that, Michelle Obama has a podcast. What's the name of the podcast? I don't know. But they go into iTunes and then they type in Michelle Obama. What do you think is going to show up? How will show up? Of course, other episodes where people spoke about Miss Obama in other podcasts where people spoke about her, it will show. But then you will see the one that has her name in the title and then has her profile picture. You click on that one and you try that one first. So please, in the beginning, these early days, nobody knows you. That is why I took my face off my podcast art, because nobody knows me. Yes, I'm a fine boy, but I'm not fine enough that when babes are scrolling, they'll stop and say, see fine boy. So I'm good looking, but not up to that level. That's why I took my picture off. And that is the reason why the 2 iterations that I've had since I took my face off for my podcast art, they always have the words sales in bold. Then it also has marketing in bold, so that anybody who is scrolling through iTunes or Apple or YouTube or Stitcher or Podcast Addict or on and on and on. Anybody who sees it, once they see sales and they see marketing, guess what they will think? They will think this podcast must be about sales and marketing. And then they will say, let me try this guy. When they click on it and say, oh, the guy is even Nigerian himself. You see? That's how my podcast is growing. Because I'm sure there's some of you who wonder, this guy, like who is he? Who is he connected to? How come the thing is growing? That's the answer to your question. It's not through connects. That's it. So please, take your face off. If you're very fine, yes, put your face there. Because it will cause people to stop. Let's see. Anyway, so that's it, basically. I think I've said pretty much what I want to say today. So, podcast episode, your show description, put the key terms there. Key terms should be there. I beg, key terms should be there. That's the reason why the things I was talking to people about in the last podcast episode, about using Notebook LM to create show descriptions. Please, use it so that for every single episode, you will create good show descriptions and put it there. That's how you do it. Podcast SEO, show title, key terms should be there. The episode description, key terms should be there. Use terms that your ideal audience will be searching for. Right? That way, when people search within the podcast algorithm, the podcast is going to show you. Now, there's one more way that your podcast can grow, and that is by advertising on different podcast platforms. Now, I cannot talk to you guys about that, at least not firsthand, because quite frankly, I haven't done the research. So I don't know how they do it. Well, I have a sense of how they do it, but that's one option that's available. So go and research advertising on other shows. Then you can also be a guest, do guest appearance on other people's shows. That is another way that your podcast will grow. Now listen carefully. Some of you don't appreciate this one. Why do you think people like Gary Vaynerchuk, the guy is a maniac? He's been doing this for how long? But why do you think anybody that invites him, like if I was connected, if I could find a way to be connected to the guy and I say, bros, I better come show for my podcast. And he's like, oh, where are you from? I say Nigeria. He might think, oh, you know what? That's true, Nigerians. And then he'll hop on the mic like that. Because I've heard the guy on some podcasts, I'm like, this podcast? Because I've heard from, I've even seen Gary Vaynerchuk on a podcast that is one guy based out of Poland. I said, Poland again? That's why the guy gets like crazy on other people's podcasts. There is a correlation. So, these are the ways that you're going to be able to promote your podcast. And remember, you have to pick one, all right, that you like or that you can do easily. You have to pick something because your podcast is not going to grow without some sort of promotion. So if you're going to do the social media thing, that is hard work. Be ready to post like a maniac. Me personally, I'm doing 8 times, 10 times every day. If I have a good day, okay, maybe 12 times. I schedule the posts. All right? Then your podcast to really grow so that people will find you. It's not going to be social media. All right? It's going to be on the podcasting platforms themselves. Okay, there's also community. So organic recommendations. So you can build communities to promote your podcast. But then to grow on the platforms, we're going to have to do what we call podcast SEO. Podcast SEO just simply means all the same tips, all the same tricks, all the same tactics that we used to do on Google before. Because when I left legal and I started as a wedding photographer, those are the games that we used to play. All those key terms. Wedding photographer in Abuja, best wedding photographer in Nigeria, wedding photographer near you, wedding photographer specialist, Abuja, wedding photographer, northern weddings, Kaduna, wedding photographer, all those key terms. How we used to play with key terms, just a choke Google, just be throwing everything in Google. It's the same thing. We have to be doing the key terms too. So, your show notes, your podcast title, your description, even your podcast art is part of podcast SEO. Use the kind of thing that somebody will stop and look. If you are not a supermodel, there's no point in putting your face. Nobody will stop and look. Nobody will stop and say, wow. Right? So if you have that look, then yes, use your face. But if you don't have that look, my friend, remove your face from the podcast art. You're better off putting key terms there. So that when somebody will see it, they will know. So if you're in the financial services space, you're starting a podcast in Nigeria, Okay, when me and Shinorambo talk, I'll tell him face to face. But just in case Shinorambo, you're listening to this, now, no vex. I plan to tell you when we talk eventually. So you take your face off, and then whatever your podcast is about, you put the key terms there. Now, if you notice, even people who have fame, even those who use their face, if you notice, they also still put the key terms there. So like this guy, what's his name? Pat Flynn. So you notice Pat Flynn, what does he have on his own? Is it passive investing or something? I can't remember. So Pat Flynn, you see his face with his beer. And then next to his head, what is there? Passive investing. So passive investing or passive income, I can't remember. Passive income investing or something. That is the one that is big, bam, next to his head. Then his name, Pat Flynn, is small. You people now, because you want to build brand, you're starting the podcast, you will now put your face big. You will now put your name big. Then the key terms will now be small. How? Please, it's in reverse. Reverse order. Then also you can advertise to grow your podcast or guest on other people's shows. So that's it. Remember, if you'd love to connect, you can call, send me a text message or a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. And just in case you are like my nigga Debo, you're in the podcasting space, you're trying to use podcasting as a deliberate strategy to grow, or you're like Shinorambo, and you also want to grow through podcasting, and you have a couple of ideas or something, reach out 080-6466-2140. I'm okay with giving people free business advice, so don't be afraid that I'm going to ask you for money. I won't ask you for money immediately. In fact, I remember when I spoke to Mary Jane. Okay, Mary Jane, I'm going to do your own podcast episode soon. When I spoke to Mary Jane and we started talking money, she said 400K. She said, Jesus, I knew now. That's the reason why I didn't want to reach out. But I said, relax, don't worry, that there are other options. Right? So if you want free advice, it's not a problem. Just hit me up. Make sure you state it clearly in the message when you reach out that free advice is what you're looking for. I have no problem with that. I'm cool. But I will answer only one question if you're asking for free business advice. If you want me to look at your business situation, your business strategy, what you've been doing for lead generation, how you've been trying to get customers, or maybe you have problems with conversions. When you're having conversations with people, you don't know how to get them to take the next step. You don't know how to collect the deposits. You're having issues here and there. You want me to sit down and look at everything in total and do a proper dissection. Let's come up with a plan for how we can fix this thing. Then we'll have to schedule a consultation. We'll need to sit down and have a proper consultation. Right? But no problem. You say you don't get money, no problem. Just tell me you want free consultation. Ask one question and I'll answer one question only. So that's it. I will catch you all some other time. There's still a few more issues that I have to talk about concerning podcasting because, all the matters therein are plenty. So I think I'll still have maybe like two more. Yeah, I'll say maybe like two more parts. So sorry, I know it's becoming plenty. Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. I know it's becoming plenty. But I just want to put this thing out there exhaustively. Also, so that in the future, if somebody asks me a question on podcasting, I can say, you know what, listen to this episode, and then I'll just send them the link. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Remember, I'm waiting to hear from you guys. 080-6466-2140. I'll catch you all some other time.